Next poem is called Ghost of the City. And instead of reading that poem, I'm going to read another poem, and then I'll read that poem. And we'll just go back to the regular routine. Just keep it up there. It's called Privilege. On the hot summer streets of black asphalt, when the heat seemed inescapable, one of the kids' fathers would turn on the fire plug, sending the waters gushing out like a furious alarm through the neighborhood, bringing the sleeping street to life. The empty doorways suddenly filled with the forms of girls and women, children running through the street with saucepans, spilling water, and sooner or later the boys would drag the girls and women from their doorways, pushing them into the water's surge, soaking their blouses and shorts, clinging to a summertime daylight display of beautiful bosoms and butts. And now I'll read Ghosts of the City. Gus says the houses of his old neighbors are sealed like tombs, with sheet metal over the windows. The ghosts of his history locked inside. No smell of baking bread and German cakes in the building he used to pass to give his nose a treat. Old friends moved to the suburbs and other parts of the city long ago. Those sisters with starring roles in his first wet dreams, long since become mothers on other streets. And still, Gus returns to his old street occasionally, hoping that Mrs. Kelly will miraculously appear in one of those shattered doorways and invite him in to visit with her daughters. I said this wasn't a religious ceremony, but I lied. We're into the religious segment of the program right now. This is called Prayer Reconsidered. Gus used to think that prayers were strings of words mouthed like so many pieces of stale breath. But he remembered his pastor had a prayer of altar wine each morning that sent a current of bemused melancholy shooting through the sockets of his eyes. And the nuns had prayers in the sound of knees cracking against marble. And the old woman who cleaned the sacristy had a prayer of whiskey and hot tea and lemon. But then his brother, on the other hand, had a prayer of naked women painted on canvases in his mind. And God knows where else. I'm doing pretty good. I haven't had a cigarette yet. This is called Initiation. Gus thought he'd never seen a gargoyle, but those wart-faced women moaning evil chants, those slump-backed women rubbing wooden beads between bony fingers, odd-smelling women, those scary hooded women meant to teach poor Gus that strange, unearthly language and send him out before the wolves had finished prowling, to inch his way through endless night, to be a party to that lurid ceremony of the ashen-faced warlock and the frightened boy. Those women burning incense, moaning, Dominus vobiscum ecum spiritu tuo. Now that we've done religion, we'll go straight to nature. This is called Rain Man. The rain man cometh, dismal and wet. He newspapers the air, bringing snow and rain and hail on the backs of woodchucks, raising the water level of the river basin, with Gus trying to determine if he is just another wild-assed imagining brought about by the persistence of winter, and the weak sister attitude of spring that allows itself to be beaten back by this terrible rain man, when he cometh, and he cometh when he choose. It's called Someone Hanker. No, it isn't. It is called that, but that's not what I'm going to read. I'm a very linear type of guy. I just go straight to the next thing. And it was the wrong thing. It's called Downstream. Gus said this is where he could spend a lifetime or an hour. This is where he could spend eternity, standing downstream watching the water rumble past, watching the water bouncing against stone, standing on the rocky shore, watching the greenery listing and flourishing at random, observing the carefree existence of the dragonfly, standing just down from a short waterfall, watching the water crashing against itself. This is where he could spend buckets of time, fishing for sunstreaks in puddles, wondering if those two young girls in the tree-covered path were just a mirage, watching the sun drape itself around branches, listening to stones conversing in ancient dialects. The last line of that, before it got put on a printed page, was "of silence." I don't know if you like that better, but I just thought I'd throw that in. Up yours.
How much money?
In keeping with our nature theme, the next one's called Search for Lost Swimmers. Gus was just driving along when he saw all the commotion and pulled over to see what the hell was going on. And it was no goddamn blowfish they pulled out of the river with the hooks they use for dredging up such things. It was all puffed up and it bounced and squirted and then just laid there. And one of the guys who was taking the hooks out said it wasn't one they were looking for, because this one had been in for at least a week. And they'd probably have to use dental records to find out who it used to be. And another guy mumbled something about being pissed off because now they'd have to go back out and spend all day fishing for another one of those dumb sons of bitches who ought to be hung for being so damn stupid. This next one is called Brunch. And by the way, that's the end of our nature section. That's the end of that. Easter Sunday. This is also dedicated to my lovely wife, who's always wanted to... Anyway, Easter Sunday. Sun shining, air brisk and clear. Gus and Kathy dress themselves up like a pair of department store mannequins and drive to the King George Inn by the Delaware River for brunch. Fresh rolls, breakfast cakes, tea, eggs Benedict, sausage, home fries, one mimosa, more tea. Pay the bill. Leave a tip. Go for a walk by the river, where Kathy sees an old man sitting on a park bench collecting dust. And she says to Gus, "See, that's you in 20 years." Sitting there, gathering information for your poems. Thanks, hon. This is called House Bigot. You might not believe this, but this is like an accident, the way this works out. And this is for two people who I thought were going to be here and aren't, and as my grandmother used to say, screw them anyway. There are a couple of my irregulars at Tangier Cafe. Gus says Richard refers to Ed as the house bigot. Ed drinks Heineken, measures his daily ration by the pound, listens to classical music on his headphones till the wee hours of morning, then sleeps off his Heineken in a Nazi muse. Ed likes to refer to Richard as the house Jew. A little levity there. And this one's for Newt. It's called Banana Ears. Gus swore that if his children had banana ears, watermelon eyes, and garden hose noses, if his children wet the bed, wiped snot on the bottom of the sofa, and never washed their hands, if his children rubbed food in their hair, smashed bugs with their soup spoons, and licked them clean, even if his children picked their asses in school and were forever dry humping the neighbor's dog, even then, he still wouldn't let them go into politics. You blame him? Next poem is called Whale Shit. This is another one that's not in the book, but when I was putting together the reading at Borders, I decided to read this poem because it's sort of a pre-Gus poem. And unbeknownst to my lovely wife, she had never read this poem. And for Valentine's Day, she bought me a book. And it's a children's book called Everyone Poops. And in the book was this illustration. And I said, hey, I got a visual. So here we go. Whale shit, amorphous shit of the sea, spotting the X-rays of my mind's eye, slipping through the sea of my imagination like fly shit. I can't find it on leaves, but I know the bastards drop a load now and then during their one-day life. But whale shit should be more detectable on its travel from one of the world's largest assholes to the bottom of the sea. Does it become breakfast for bluefish? Tangled in the lines of deep-sea fishermen? Brunch for octopi, mistakenly? Or does it become the tiles of the ocean floor? Unlike bear shit, that we all know can be found in the woods, where it can be easily inspected for pieces of Farmer Jones's corn, or even stepped in if you're not careful, and brought home on your shoes the whale shit. I don't know. It's called Interrogatories. Hey Murph, I've got a few more questions for you if you don't mind. Where did they send you anyway? Did you get your visa stamped and checked? Did they allow you visitation rights to see your nephews and your niece? Did they have anything like the bar in Star Wars? In heaven, in purgatory, or in hell? See if you can find out whatever happened to all those kids who were stuck in limbo before they did away with it. Are you happy over there? Are you safe at last from all your brother's woes? Are you at peace? Or do they just have you doing more hard time in some dingy cell block of the great beyond? Joanne, surprise for everybody in the room. This next poem is called Inheritance. Hold up to your mouth like this and talking to it.
Hi everybody, my name is Joe. I'm Al's cousin, his much younger cousin. And I'm up here because I thought at this point my older cousin would need a rest. I can't see what I'm looking at, so I'm not as young as I look either. Actually, I asked Al if I could read this poem because it has a lot of meaning for me, and I think for Al too. And this poem has reunited some spirits. So I'd like to thank Joe and Gus and Al for this poem. And as Al said, it's called Inheritance. It's a eulogy for Joe Holt. Gus Hurd, your patron saint, drove you to leave your wife and children for a drink. So many times, when communion is between night and the dead, Gus sits imitating the sounds of your conversations that never reached his ears, pretending each noise into the words of the prayers that bore your spirit on the desperate streets, rotting sidewalks, and naked hallways where your history is recorded. Holy Goof, found dead on Vine Street, holding a pair of rosary beads. Your voice remains a murmur in his glass. Your face, a pyramid of clouds passing into the future.